Let's turn now to the extraordinary moves by the Tennessee's House Republicans, who voted to expel two of their black Democratic colleagues, you see them there, from the State House this week for breaking decorum and floor rules. That vote came after Congressmen, or rather representatives, Justin Jones, Gloria Johnson, and Justin Pearson joined gun safety demonstrations from the Tennessee House floor days after the Nashville elementary school shooting. On Thursday, Republicans expelled Jones and Pearson, but Johnson survived the expulsion efforts by one vote. It's the latest and most high-profile example of Republicans in red states taking extraordinary steps to exert control over Democrats in elected positions. Peter, what's the potential for all of this to backfire on Republicans? We've seen how the electorate has responded to perceived overreach, radicalism, extremism in the 2018 midterms, the 2020 election, and the 2022 midterms.
Yeah, I covered a state legislature for years before coming back to Washington, and it's you're seeing Washington now trickle down into the states, right? The sort of the polarization, the anger, the partisanship, the performative sense of outrage is all now translating itself in state capitals where it didn't really used to exist. I mean, there was always partisanship, but not like this. But the problem or the risk for Republicans here is, of course, that when they're in charge, fine, they can kick somebody out. Decorum ought to be maintained on some level. You can understand how any legislative body needs to do that. But to actually kick somebody out altogether for that means that you could be kicked out yourself, right? What happened in Congress when the President of the United States gave a State of the Union just not that long ago? People were shouting at him and calling him a liar on the floor. That's a break of decorum. Do those Republicans get expelled from Congress as a result? I mean, this really is one of these slippery slopes where you begin to cause yourself some real problems.
And the White House is really picking its targets here because, as we said, the White House has said really nothing about the Trump situation. But President Biden tweeted this. He said, 3 kids and 3 officials gunned down in yet another mass shooting. And what are GOP officials focused on? Punishing lawmakers who joined thousands of peaceful protesters calling for action. It's shocking, undemocratic, and without precedent. Today, the White House said that President Biden met remotely with those 3 lawmakers. And of course, we know that Vice President, you see the picture there, Vice President Kamala Harris is on the ground right now in Tennessee, meeting with them in person. It looks like the White House is trying to align itself, Francesca, with the energy among those who are advocating for greater gun safety.
But it's also sought to elevate the issue at a time when, because of congressional gridlock, the White House hasn't been able to do more on this issue. And with regards to the vice president going down, you know, this really marries 2 issues the White House has sought to focus on, both gun reforms, but also to better engage young black men. And the vice president in particular has been putting in a lot of work on that front. And I think that that is a very important point about what she did today also.
And that's why she went to Fisk.
And that is why she went to Fisk, which is a historically black college and university.
All right. Well, at the end of this historic week, as we said, I thought it would be instructive to do a quick lightning round and for each of you to give us either your prevailing thought or a really interesting piece of reporting that you happened upon this week. And we'll start with Hugo.
No pressure.
I really just want to come back to the Trump's appearance in court because it was so striking, and kind of Jackie touched on this earlier. But I did have a pretty good view of Trump walking in and walking out. I was the last one in the courtroom because I was late to the line. But I could see his facial features very clearly. And I had been in that courtroom before when Steve Bannon was arraigned in the We Build the Wall scheme. It's a very bleak courtroom. It has kind of white walls. You know, typically federal court has these big portraits on the wall and, like, you know, it's very colorful. It's very kind of ornate. And this was very bleak, and I don't know if that made his facial features look worse, but he came across as very unflattering. And he came across really as looking afraid in a way that I'd never seen him before, and it was kind of disguised by the sense of indignation, but it was a really striking moment, I think, for Trump, you know, to be finally hit with the sense that he was a criminal defendant.
Yeah. We've got about a minute left. Who's next?
I'll go. So the GOP is facing a huge identity crisis right now, and they're having to choose between some of this old school politics, the fiscal conservatism, if you will, that you're hearing Asa Hutchinson and Chris Sununu and others talk about, and also this.
And you interviewed Chris Sununu this past week.
Yes, and also Asa Hutchinson, right. And so they're facing this crisis between that and sort of the things that you see the cultural flashpoints like the Ron DeSantis's focus on, and now we're seeing those play out nationally for the first time, and it will be very curious to see in this election cycle if the GOP potentially misstrategized on those social issues.
Yeah, Jackie, what are you watching for as this New York case in particular comes together?
Yeah, well, I don't want to give away any potential scoops, so I will pivot back to my daily beat congressional investigations. Definitely looking at Jim Jordan, the Judiciary Committee, the Weaponization Committee, and the House Oversight Committee, and how they continue to beat the drum on attacking Alvin Bragg and his team. They just issued another records request a few hours ago to Matthew Colangelo, someone who's actively working on the case for Alvin Bragg. They issued a subpoena for Mark Pomerantz yesterday. Curious to see how Pomerantz responds. I don't think he responded today. He was advised by the general counsel for Bragg's office not to cooperate with Jim Jordan's investigation into the indictment, but we'll be keeping a close eye on that next week.
And Peter Baker, we are out of time, but you are White House correspondent without peer. So if you tweet it, we can all go to your Twitter account and
That works
see
for
it.
me.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Francesca Chambers, Peter Baker, Hugo Lowell, Jackie Alamany. A huge thanks to the four of you for being with us. So we will leave it there for now. Thanks to my panel for joining us on this evening. And thanks